Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about AWS CLI or command line interface. So in the first part, we will understand what AWS CLI is and what it does and how it works. And then we will run some, CLI commands to actually see, hands-on how to use AWS CLI. Okay, let's get started. First, let's understand what AWS CLI is. So according to official documentation of AWS, what it says that AWS CLI is an open source tool that enables you to interact with AWS services using commands in your command line shell. So basically what this means is you can interact with your AWS services, in many ways. So one way is to actually using AWS management console here. So you can come to this console and you can, click on, S3 and you can create a bucket here, or you can, list the files of the files in that bucket, and you can do lots of stuff. You can interact with AWS services using your management console. So this is one way to interact with AWS services. So similarly, CLI gives you a way to interact with your AWS services using commands. Okay, so you don't need to actually come here and see, open the management console and see what buckets are present in your AWS. Okay, you can just run a command and get that. So that is what AWS CLI does for you. Okay, so with that basic understanding of what AWS CLI is, let's take a look at some syntaxes and how to use AWS CLI. So to do that, I'll take you to this AWS CLI command line command reference. Okay, so this page has basically everything, all the details of all the syntaxes that are available, all the commands that are available, and the syntaxes for each of the commands, what parameters you need to pass to you know run those commands. So you can refer to this AWS CLI command reference always. So if you see here in this page, AWS has listed you all the available services, on which you can run your AWS CLI commands. So for practice purposes, let's take a look at S3 service and run some CLI commands on S3 service. Okay. So if you see here, if you click on S3, this is what it shows. So it shows all the commands available under S3 service using CLI. Okay, so let's take a look at some basic commands. I'll click on this ls. So ls stands for basically list. Okay, so let's run this sample command. Okay, a simple command AWS s3 ls and see how it works. So basically, to run any AWS command, the syntax will usually be your AWS and then the service name, basically the service with which you are interacting, and then the command can be list, move, copy, if it is S3, or if it is like EC2, it can be like create instance or terminate instance or anything like that. Okay, so let's run this command in the CLI and see what happens. Okay, so to run the command, you can in your management console you can click on this cloud shell. Okay, this icon which is present here, or you can search for the cloud shell service and open it. Okay, so let me click on this icon. So when you click on that icon, what happens is AWS creates an environment for you to run your AWS CLI commands. Okay, so this is how it is. So now let me run that command AWS S3 ls. Okay, so when I ran the command, it gave me the list of buckets that are present in my AWS account. Okay, so if you see here, if I come to my S3 console, this is the only bucket that is present in my S3 console, and it listed that. Okay, so now what if you want to basically list all the files which are inside this bucket? Okay, so let's go here. So if you see here inside my bucket, there is only one file called JSON data.json. So how to listen? So what we do for that is AWS S3 ls, and then you pass a parameter which is your bucket name. So what happens is it lists all the files which are present inside that bucket. Okay. So if I paste the bucket name here and click enter. So if you see here, it is showing me the files which are present inside my S3 bucket. So basically that's how you you know run the list command of AWS S3. So let's take take a look at some of the other commands that are present in AWS S3. Now let's create one more bucket using AWS CLI. Okay, so to do that, I can just Google AWS create bucket CLI, and it will show you the command to do that. Okay, so let's create an AWS bucket using command line interface. Okay, so basically, these are the examples you can refer to create your bucket. So let's use this to create a bucket. Okay, so let me just format this better. So basically what we are passing is we are just saying AWS S3 API create bucket and a bucket name. Let's call this my new test bucket 123 something, so that like the name is available, and the region I'll just leave it as US East one itself. Okay, so let's run this command and see if it creates the bucket. Okay, hit enter here. Okay, so if you see here, it gave some response. So let's go to S3 console and see if it created the bucket. Okay, so yeah, if you see here now, this bucket is created. So that is how you create a bucket using AWS CLI. So now let's do one thing. Let's copy this file which is present in this bucket, the first bucket, into the second bucket, the new bucket that we created. So let's see how to do that. So in this AWS S3 CLI command reference, click on the CP. So basically CP stands for copy. So that is, you can use this command to copy files from one bucket to another bucket, or even to like coming from S3 to your EC2 instance or anything like that. Okay, so let's use this CP command, copy the bucket, copy the file from one bucket to another. So to do that, we do AWS S3 CP, and the first argument is your source bucket, source path. Okay, so let me take this and copy S3 URI. So this is my source path, paste, and next the second argument is your destination. Basically, where do you want to copy it to? So if you see here now, this bucket is empty. Let me copy this and paste it here. So this is my destination path. Actually, we need to give S3 here, S3. Okay, so this is how you need to pass the parameters. So once you are given AWS S3 CP source path and the destination path, click on enter. So you see that copy command was successful. Now let's go back here and see if the file was copied to this bucket. So if you see, yes, it was copied. So that is how you use a copy command. So basically, like this, depending on your requirement, you can run any of the commands. So basically, if, no one can remember all the commands. You can always refer to the documentation itself and find the command and the parameters that you need to pass to that command using the documentation itself. So yeah, that's how you basically use AWS CLI for S3 service. So similarly, you can use the commands that are available for other services as well. So just to give you an example, let's take the example of Lambda service. So in this page, let me find the Lambda and we'll run some CLI commands related to Lambda. Okay, so this is your Lambda, and what are the commands? So these are the commands available for that function. Okay, so first let's see. List functions. Okay, so basically this command lists all the Lambda functions that are available in your account. Okay, so first let me go to the Lambda console and show you what are the functions that are available in my account. Okay, okay, I just have one Lambda function in my account. Okay, so let's use this command and see if it returns the proper result. Okay, here so if you notice here, we are using the Lambda service here. So when you are running commands related to S3, you are using AWS S3. Now we are using AWS Lambda, and so basically AWS is a constant, and then the service name, and then basically your function name, the command basically you pass. Okay, so let's run this command. So if you see here, now it listed the Lambda function. So if you see here, the function name is test Lambda function, and stuff like all the details related to the function came here. So that's how you use AWS Lambda. So let's see another command for AWS Lambda. Let's try to invoke the Lambda using command line. Okay, so for that I will use invoke command. So if you see here, this is the syntax for invoke command. Okay, so let's invoke the command, Lambda using our command line. Okay, so I'll just do copy this. So I'm not going to pass any payload or anything like that. So I'll just copy this command entirely, and I'll remove the things that I don't need. Okay, so let me format this. Okay, so the function name you need to pass here, which is this one, test Lambda function. So basically, if you see here the command to that, so you can always refer to the documentation, and even I don't remember any of the commands, right? We just like refer to the documentation and find the command, appropriate command which we need to run for the requirement that we might have. Okay, so if you see here, this is AWS Lambda invoke, and this is CLI binary format raw, and then the function name we are passing as test Lambda function and response to JSON. Okay, so let's paste this and run this command. Okay, and see if it invokes the Lambda. Okay, so it says status code 200. Let's go here and see if it invoked the Lambda actually. Okay, let's go to monitor. Okay, click on view logs in CloudWatch here, and if you see here, it actually invoked the Lambda just now. Okay, so yeah, that's how you can, use AWS CLI commands to interact with AWS services. So it's just a way to interact with AWS services using a command line instead of actually going to the console and interacting with AWS services. So you can also automate a lot of stuff, using scripts in which you have your AWS CLI commands. So I hope I was able to give you some quick introduction about the CLI, and also some hands-on practice on how to use the CLI commands. Okay. I hope you found this video helpful. If you found the video helpful, please subscribe to my channel for more such videos. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.